views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
This show's audio was via a Skype call.
Get fired up for Spirit Fire Radio with your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer. Get ready to shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in these modern times. Bring purpose to your life through practical spirituality and add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Spirit Fire Radio. My name is Steve Kramer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle. Hello, Dorothy.
Hi, Steve. Glad to be here.
Great to be with you, and listeners, great to be with you. Thank you for being a part of this. We are part of an interdependent whole. I almost said independent. There you go, Dorothy. That's me for you. Yes, we've been talking about interdependence this entire month. In fact, this whole season, we're talking about universal principles and ways we can leverage them just by really going deeper into them, learning about them, and seeing ways in which they affect our everyday lives. They help us out and hopefully inform us. These are really wonderful tools, and it's been a great month. Last week, great show on the links between service and interdependence. It was fascinating and really wonderful information brought forward. So listeners, if you want to listen to any of our archives, certainly at spiritfireradio.com or with Transformation Talk Radio, they're all there. And we're going to wrap up this month by talking about ways to strengthen our interdependence. Going to be a wonderful show. Dorothy, should we start it off with a quote? I even have a quote today, but you go first.
Well, I've got two, so I'm going to sneak them in first. Okay, the first one's from Stephen Covey. He writes, independent people who do not have the maturity to think and act interdependently may be good individual producers, but they won't be good leaders or team players. They're not coming from the paradigm of interdependence necessary to succeed in marriage, family, or organizational reality. Life is, by nature, highly interdependent. And then the other one is from Thomas Merton. He writes, the whole idea of compassion is based on a keen awareness of the interdependence of all living beings, which are all part of one another and all involved in one another.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that keen awareness of the interdependence of all living things, because that's so much of what we've been talking about this whole month is we've got to be aware of it. And sometimes it takes effort. It's sometimes easy to sometimes the individual gets rewarded, and really it is about group. It is about the fact that we rely on each other, and it sometimes takes us to become keenly aware of the myriad and complex ways, right, that we are all interdependent. Mm-hmm. And in the first quote, there was something about organizational reality, and that just speaks to what we talk about consistently, which is that we are a part of the one life. We are a part of a very complex, organized system, an organized reality. And when we don't recognize that, boy, Dorothy, right, that's when things seem to really go awry, huh?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I have a quote by Martin Luther King that I just wanted to share because I think it's quite lovely. He says, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love.
That's beautiful.
what's so beautiful about that, Dorothy, is we all innately do have a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. It is an innate quality to the human being. It's just sometimes we need to allow that to come to the surface. We need to clear away that which gets in the way of exposing and expressing a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. And I find that it is really within the ageless wisdom and the wisdom teachings that as we start to integrate that soul awareness, as we start to live from this place of the soul, we really then become aware of group. It actually is revealed to us the ways in which group is so rewarding and is really the only way. It is the way, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so if we link interdependence and compassion, which is one of the necessities of human life, compassion is about being moved by another's situation, another's suffering or difficulties, but also feeling warmth and caring and a desire to help. Wanting to offer understanding and kindness when people are in difficulty, and recognizing that when other people have difficulties, that's part of the shared human experience. And we do this without expecting to be thanked or rewarded. We do it as an expression of interdependence, of that sense of interconnection.
One thing that comes forward to me is that compassion indeed is a component of interdependence. I'm wondering, just a couple questions for you. I'm wondering about compassion itself. Like you just mentioned, you mentioned suffering. Understanding even when other people make mistakes, being moved by another's suffering. Indeed, as we generate compassion, as we help another selflessly, we are reminded and we recognize our interdependence both by their response and by seeing the flow, seeing that is quite beautiful. It's quite a good thing. We feel the results. But I'm wondering, is there an emotional component to compassion? Because interdependence is a fact. It is a law of the universe. Whereas compassion, to me, does it always involve another's suffering?
Well, I think it is. It does involve emotional because there's a chemical response, which is what emotion is comprised of. That is part of it. But I think that one of the illusions that we operate under is that it is always in response to suffering, or always needs to be in response to suffering. And I just would like to put out to our listeners to think about the fact that a lot of the way that we talk about our lives, the way that we analyze what's going on with us, the way that we are taught psychologically, at least I was trained psychologically, focuses on suffering, and that you grow through suffering. You have to have pain in order to grow. And in fact, that's not true. And we know, we have much more in the way of positive psychology. We can be compassionate because we recognize that someone is living a life that lacks joy, because joy is really the keynote of our universe. It's shifting from reacting to something that happens that is unpleasant to proactively experimenting and learning and growing. We have the potential to do that, and we can be compassionate towards someone who is struggling in that process, or who has gotten kind of wound down into a situation where they're feeling stuck. This is not suffering, really. This is just the process of learning who we are in this universe and how to interact with the whole.
and becoming whole, the process of evolving. And I guess that's what I was getting at with that question is, can we be compassionate if there isn't suffering in the equation? For some reason, I was thinking about traffic, about the traffic guards, that let school kids across the road. They are really a part. We depend on them. They are a part of our I'm stumbling on my words. Interdependence comes to mind when I think of them. We depend on them for the service they provide. And I can feel that in my heart. And I think, I have reverence for the job they do. I have respect for them. I honor them. I appreciate them. And I think, well, do I have compassion for them? Is there suffering involved? And is it just to add to, a smile or a thank you or a sending them, being aware of the job they do and appreciating them? So for me, it was just trying to suss out where compassion in ways that it's different from, appreciation and honor and sort of respect in the same way. They're all a part of that.
Well, I think that compassion is that plus that desire to be helpful if there's something that we can do. Yeah. And we can also feel compassionate for aspects of the job that may not be optimal. I mean, the guard, might be out there, it might be a very hot day. They don't have to be suffering, crying or that kind of thing.
And that's an act of compassion. Right. But
we can feel, isn't it wonderful that they do this and that they do this no matter what the weather is?
Yes.
So I think that it's that kind of, recognition of someone else and awareness that what they're doing is contributing to the common good.
And recognizing that thought form is actually a sense of doing. It is the act of appreciating and honoring and respecting. And there perhaps in a small way and in an unseen way, as we talked about last week, is that act, that suffering, that act of compassion that comes in line with compassion, the act of doing, of wanting to be helpful. Mm-hmm. Dorothy, we're already at our first break.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, we will be right back after these words, and we're going to continue talking about the relationship between compassion and interdependence. We'll be right back.
Stay juicy. Tune in to Your Juicy Love with me, Una Drake, co-hosting monthly with Dr. Pat, and every second Monday at 12 p.m. on Transformation Talk Radio. My show, Your Juicy Love, helps you find the dynamic, life-affirming love you've always wanted. Transform your relationships and bring peace, joy, and juicy, juicy love to planet Earth. For more information, visit unadrake.com.
Conscious Confidence Radio, a timeless wisdom with Sarah Main. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio and join Sarah on an adventurous journey to the deeper level of meaning to move beyond today's world of constant change, confusion, and uncertainty beyond the shadow of fear. This hit show explores key concepts such as confidence, values, and attitude in a dynamic way. To learn more about Sarah and her work, visit sarahmain.com.
Are you looking to grow spiritually, expand your consciousness, increase psychic abilities? Well, there's a free app for that. Pure Light offers audios that transmit high spiritual frequencies to help you awaken to your full potential. Hundreds of audios created by some of the world's top energy healers, and many are free. Enjoy the latest in conscious technology and download Pure Light today. To find out more, visit purelightaudio.com.
Hi, I'm Barbara Scheidegger, clinical hypnotherapist and founder of Swiss Hypnotherapy. And this is a tip with purpose. Be willing to make a change for the good. If you want to know what your thoughts were like in the past, look at your body today. If you want to know what your body will be like in the future, look at your thoughts today. This was Deepak Chopra who said that. And it's true, but it's never ever too late to make a change. And many things can be reversed. If you put your mind into it and make an effort, now you can make the change, and tomorrow you will feel much better. Start now and look forward. Past is the past. There's no future in it. But in the now, you can find the future for tomorrow. I hope this tip helps you. You can reach me at swisshypnotherapy.com.
Welcome back, listeners, to Spirit Fire Radio. Dorothy, a bit about our nonprofits. Both Dorothy and I are here representing two nonprofits. Service, right, Dorothy? When we think of nonprofits, right. It would be great to hear a bit about the School for Esoteric Studies, and then I'll follow up with a few words about Spirit Fire.
Yes, listeners, I am with the School for Esoteric Studies. We are an educational nonprofit. We provide training to persons who have a spiritual practice that they would like to deepen, and we do that through meditation, study, and service. We are very focused as part of the service that we want to engage in collaborating with like-minded organizations. So this is part of our recognition of interdependence. And if you are with an organization that would like to collaborate with us, please look at our website, esotericstudies.net. We have a section on intergroup collaboration that spells out types of collaboration that we would like to engage in. It lists the various organizations that we are already collaborating with, and Spirit Fire is one of our favorite partners, and this Spirit Fire Radio is one of the consequences of that collaboration. So thanks very much, Steve. And again, we are at esotericstudies.net.
Beautiful. And Spirit Fire is also an educational nonprofit. We are focused on cultivating spirituality and finding ways for individuals to bring that into their everyday lives. We do that through meditation, through study and service. Our meditation practice is called the Practice of Living Awareness. It's an online practice. We just started a brand new round not so long ago. So look at spiritfire.com under the meditation tab if you'd like to meditate with us. That's free every week. New meditation podcast delivered straight to your inbox. We also have a meditation retreat center where we support that practice and host various groups that are cultivating consciousness. We teach online classes and a variety of really wonderful offerings that you can find out by looking at spiritfire.com. So, Dorothy, we're talking about interdependence and compassion. Last week we talked about service, and there was a quote I didn't get to mention that I love so much, but it's applicable to this subject, which is from Ram Dass, and he says, "In service, we taste unity." And I think that's so true. There's a subtle awareness of the fact that when we are helping another, that we're a part of that greater whole. That's what comes to the forefront and makes it just feel so good. I also think that the word kindness, as we're talking about compassion and actually empathizing with another, being able to sort of experience what they're going through and then wanting to help them, that being compassion, this idea of kindness. I think it's interesting. I never thought about the word kindness having the word kind in it, and that when we are kind, we're actually bringing to the forefront this sense of group, of being of a kind, being of the human family, and actually just being of the family that is even the planet Earth, sentient beings on the planet Earth. So in kindness, we're actually bringing to the forefront this sense of group or kin. That word kin is in kindness, and the similarities, that which brings us together. So I thought that was nice to bring to the forefront. And compassion, in that tasting the unity, it's good for us, right, Dorothy? I mean, we actually feel better when we are compassionate, when we help others in ways that are not just, they're actually built into our biology, yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting, Steve, that, last week we were distinguishing between the person and the action and talking about, how we can, in service to the common good, how we can apply our moral compass to actions and call out actions that are harmful and are violent without having to create a division and a separateness from the people that might be engaging in those actions. When I think about compassion, it's like compassion has to do with the person rather than the action. So it's kind of complementary to what we were talking about last time. It is a desire to, it's an emotional response that moves us to action. I mean, the action may be internal, it may be mental in terms of the energy that we surround the other person with, or it may be visible to others in terms of how we act. But it is clearly an expression of the fact that we are all one, we are all interdependent.
Well, Dorothy, I want to bring that up just because that's such an interesting point that you just made. We were talking last week about mothers against drunk driving as opposed to mothers against drunk drivers, which would be singling out the individual. And you could see that compassion could be, you could have compassion for the drunk driver who, because of an addiction, took the life of somebody or was in an accident or, really is in an awful place that is the result of conditioning. And to not look at the human being, but look at the action and try to correct the action that led to the conditioning. And that is that is right there in a nutshell, really having a keen awareness of our interdependence in the ways in which our actions affect one another, and that might create a situation where one, is partakes in drunk driving, and that is what we need to, as a society, correct. But then having compassion for the drunk driver could be quite meaningful in turning their lives around, because that would be an awful thing that they would be experiencing. Indeed, quite a lot of suffering going on there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Well, it's interesting in terms of the dynamic of compassion that it's actually physically more pleasurable to give than to receive. And there's a couple corollaries to that. One is that we are better off if we are focused on the other, if we are remembering the interdependence, if we are acting on that interdependence. But if you think about the flow of energy, we do also have to be open to receiving from others. We need to not feel entitled to receive, but we need to be open so that the flow of energy continues, because that is one of the aspects of our interdependence, is that we depend on energy circulating and not just becoming stagnant.
Mm. Dorothy, I love that you were talking about exchange. It makes me think of a class I teach in New York City, esoteric healing. So we're working with energy and balancing people's energy bodies, but we will often take the class on a New York City subway, and we will start at a stop where we're guaranteed that a lot of us will get seats. And we will ride the car and offer a seat to somebody who is really in need of sitting down, which New York City subways are always crowded, and there's always someone who could use a seat. And not necessarily somebody totally suffering, but just offering the goodness of a seat on a subway car. But we'll really focus in our heart and really engage the person and say, please have a seat, and get up and allow them to have it. So, it's that them being willing also to receive a seat. And watching that cascade, we'll do it in a few spots on the car, everybody just focusing on in their heart. And all of a sudden, it's interesting. The whole mood of a subway car changes as everybody becomes aligned and starts to actually engage each other. And you see, if you stay on the subway car for a while, and we have people sort of all over the car doing this sporadically, that other people will allow somebody a bit more space or smile at somebody or engage somebody. So it really does, that this once it's almost like it's, it catches on, and beautiful things happen when we just help another person. It has a cascading effect, and it's really a worthwhile thing to just. The small things are big things. We can offer somebody just something little, and often see changes beyond just that offering.
Absolutely, and in fact, there's research to support what your kind of informal research has shown. What the researchers say is that people are significantly happier when they spend money on others than when they spend it on themselves. And this applies even to infants who have the option of having a treat themselves or giving a treat to another. Yes. And I don't know if anyone of our listeners had that experience of being with a small child who will, offer you this little rock or a grubby piece of candy or whatever, just spontaneously offer you something. And that dynamic is very much a part.
They're so happy.
That's part of express. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, sorry. I just going to say they're so happy when they're doing it. I'm just almost giggling as you're saying that story, because it's true. When they want to give you something, they're just so happy. Like, here, take it. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the expression of interdependence. That's the feeling of the recognition of connection rather than isolation.
Yes, it's like the web that connects us all. And it's so simple to offer something, even only a smile, right? Or a thank you has such a wonderful effect. Dorothy, we are at a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the barriers to interdependence. What gets in the way, and how can we turn that around? We'll be right back.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
Living Lighter Radio with Jason and Patricia. We have an ecosystem approach to your life. Tune in weekly every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio as we, Jason and Patricia, discuss what's truly holding you back. We offer you the tools you need to reach your goals and at the same time be living lighter. For more information about Living Lighter, visit www.livinglighter.org.
To find answers to life's questions, you need to look within yourself. Dr. Glenna Rice brings your questionable conversations on Transformation Talk Radio each month. Tune in each month for insight into how you can live up to your full potential. Dr. Glenna is a physical therapist, certified Access Consciousness, and Access Body Class facilitator. How does it get any better than this? For more information on Dr. Glenna Rice and her work, visit glennarice.com.
Love Living Radio Ignite Your Whole Being with Emily Perkins is a show for those looking to explore the sparkling magnificence of their inner selves. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific as Emily sheds a radiant light of love on the beauty and power that resides within you. Discussing love in all its forms through conversations that provoke awareness, curiosity, and expansion, Emily shares the unlimited power of love. For more information or to listen to this show, visit loveliving.holistics.com.
Dream on, fly high, and live adventurously on The Laura Meeks Show. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio as host Laura Meeks guides you in finding your unique gifts and bringing them to life. As a certified life coach, speaker, and veteran bomber pilot for the U.S. Air Force, Laura knows how to follow a dream. She is ready to support you so you can dream on, fly high, and live adventurously. For more information on Laura and her work, visit flyhighliving.com.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days, because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Hello, listeners. Dorothy and I are going to continue this conversation on interdependence and its relationship to compassion. We're going to talk a bit about barriers, that which gets in the way of realizing we are, in fact, interdependent, and perhaps even then moving toward an act of helping, an act of compassion. Dorothy, you want to take us down that road?
Yeah, I think there are a number of beliefs that are barriers, and one of them is believing that it's okay to take and not give back. You know, I mentioned in the earlier segment that our interdependence requires the continuous flow of energy, and you can think of this in a number of different ways. Like if you have water that is stagnant, you know, versus water that is free flowing. If you have, if you eat a lot and you don't eliminate, you can actually die from that. So the universe is set up as a system of continuous flow of this giving and receiving. And if we think about that belief that it's okay to just take, I think what is underlying that is a belief in scarcity. We talked about this about a year ago, Steve, but we haven't talked about it recently. This belief that there's only a certain amount, and certainly transactional leadership, like we see from the U.S. president, grows out of that model, win-lose model.
Yeah.
But that's not our reality. Our reality is abundance. The win-lose model comes from Newtonian physics, and what is real about our universe is that it's a probabilistic universe. There are many different options. There are many different ways in which to experience something. We're the ones that judge something as limited. We're the ones that say, unless I have this much, it's not enough. And I think we only need to look around at the wide range of species to see the abundant ways in which life is expressed. And, being human isn't the only way. There's many, 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 many ways. It's true in so many areas of our lives that there are many, many possibilities, and we contribute most effectively when we are part of a flow instead of just taking and hugging to ourselves.
So important to recognize abundance, because it will often be then reflected back at you, just how abundant and how much we actually do have in greed. I just think of greed as one of the deadly sins, right? It really does come from a lack mentality. There's only so much, and I want it all. But I also think of my grandparents, who grew up in the Depression, and I really learned that term, black mentality, which was, this always really mindful of everything, because, this was really ingrained in them that resources were scarce, and they, on both sides of my family, led a very minimal life as a result. But this idea of taking without giving back. Now, granted, my grandparents gave a lot back, so it wasn't that they were giving back quite a bit of love, which comes to say, which leads me to say that, we can take and give. We allow, we've got our garbage taken from us. So we've talked about that. This service that's provided us, and we think, well, we write a check to the company, that's my exchange. But sometimes, we can go a little bit further. We were talking about just go down the road when you see the garbage guys and give them a thanks and say you really appreciate them, that there's multiple ways to give back. And this awareness of the ways in which we're interdependent, as we generate an awareness around that, I think we realize that we receive quite a bit. We receive, and we've got to always look for ways in which, and acknowledge the ways in which we give back, so that there's an acknowledgement of that flow, for sure.
On the economic side, I just want to note that one of the areas in which I've done writing and a lot of thinking is in the dynamic of profiting, as a commercial enterprise, profiting by giving back. There's a lot of evidence that businesses that are community-minded, that are engaged with the community, that take community needs into account, that interact with the community, are more successful.
Yeah.
And anyone that's interested in the paper, the white paper that I've written on that, you can go to servicegrowth.com and download it. But this whole idea that we are interdependent, and that means that there is this circle of energy, this circle of life that we need to participate in.
Well, and then it just sometimes goes, and often, and it's factually beyond just the material. It makes me think of Mary Shores, and I had pulled this quote up for a different segment or a different show on interdependence, and we never got to it. She wrote a book called Conscious Communications. We actually interviewed her on the show, and she's got a collection agency. And, she realized that she just wanted people to be happier, her employees to be happier, and she realized that she saw in the end that by cultivating happiness, as opposed to just getting the income from people as a collection agency, getting them to pay their bills, that the business would succeed. And I have a quote here. She says, "I want the next person who calls to be happier by the end of the call than they were when they called in. I don't want to worry about whether or not they paid their bills. I only want to make them feel less frustrated and more happy." So that's this idea of like, you're really giving back in a greater way, in a broader way. And her business went through the roof. Everybody was happier as soon as they connected to other people and realized that there was an exchange happening that was beyond you owe money and I'm here to get it back. But perhaps I'm recognizing that you're frustrated and I can make your life happier by getting you out of debt. So let's work together. And as soon as they did that, the business just went through the roof. And everybody was happy, the employees, the customers, everybody. So indeed, so looking at ways in which there is exchange, and even a broader exchange, I think is important.
Well, I think that the example that you gave, Steve, which is such a wonderful example, relates to another barrier, and that is our being judgmental of ourselves or feeling judged by others. When we, if you think about it, if you feel judged, your energy constricts, right? You feel like you have to defend yourself. And one of our reactions is then to judge other people. Well, we use the same standards to judge other people. But I think of a wonderful relationship that I had with a colleague years ago, where we were both academics, and we were helping each other with professional articles that we were writing in our own areas. And we made a pact with each other that the first thing we said to each other when we would critique the other's article was, "This is great. I really got," and then we would say something that we learned from reading that. And then we could be as critical as we wanted to in terms of saying, this needs to change, this needs to change, this needs to change. But having started with the positive, the person was open and receptive to hearing the rest of it instead of being defensive. And so I think of it like a flower, right, opening up rather than this tightly closed bud.
And just acknowledging that you're part of, you're co-creative, that you're in this together. The reason you're having this exchange is because there's togetherness. You're in this together. So beautiful. And it's that, judging ourselves, judging another, it gets tricky. It can result in that, that we talk about the heresy of separateness and that criticism, that is number one. That will lead you in the direction of there you are, here I am, and finding any way to be constructive and see that you are being co-creative in making something perhaps a little more effective or a little more clear rather than just being critical, Yeah.
Well, I think it's also important to distinguish between requested feedback and criticism. Unsolicited criticism is not helpful. It can be quite damaging, and it sets up or it feeds into this dynamic of feeling superior to the other person. I know better how to do this. Now, if I have a skill or I have a piece of writing or whatever that I want help in improving, then I can ask somebody else for specific types of feedback, and I can even, my partner and I do a lot of writing together, and so one of the dynamics that we use, or one of the exchanges that we use, is, what specifically would you like feedback on right now? Because, when you're in early stages, maybe you're not ready to deal with refinement, so you just want to know, is the sequence of ideas, is it flowing well? And so then we're actually in this together, right? We're being helpful to each other as opposed to that separativeness of I know better than you and I'm going to tell you how to do your life.
Yeah, so important, valuable advice. Dorothy, we've got to go to a break, but let's come back to this after the words. I think there's a bit more that we could talk about in terms of what gets in the way of recognizing our interdependence. How's that sound?
Great.
All right, we'll be right back.
Do you know how powerful your thoughts and beliefs are in determining your experience of your life? Is it really true that simply by changing some of the words you use in your day-to-day language, that you can change your life? I'm Megan Edge. Join me on Playing on the Edge, Radical Change with Ease, with my co-host Dr. Pat on Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to seeing you there.
To find out more about Megan Edge, visit her website at meganedge.ca.
Hi, I'm Steve Kramer of Spirit Fire Radio, and I believe that meditation changes everything. It leads us in the direction of greater well-being, and that's a fact. I struggled with meditation for years. I understood the principles, but I found it hard to incorporate them into my everyday life. Spirit Fire's meditation practice changed that. It's called the Practice of Living Awareness, and it's taught in 14 steps. These are 14 tools that I can use in any moment, on and off the cushion. Steps like smile, flow, and ground of being support my clarity of mind while I'm navigating the ups and downs of modern life. That's why it's called the Practice of Living Awareness. If you'd like to add meditation to your daily experience, the Practice of Living Awareness is free, online, and it's suited for any level of practitioner. Visit spiritfire.com for more information. And be sure to check out Spirit Fire's meditation retreats in Western Massachusetts. It's all there at spiritfire.com.
Tune in to People Like Us Radio with Megan Lyons, transcending the trauma of the human experience. Megan will be raising the universal consciousness by empowering listeners with their own inner strength, working past trauma and abuse. Megan will show you how to find true healing and inner peace through the art and practice of self-love. Tune in every first and third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. For more information about Megan and her work, visit enterthelightllc.com.
What is a brilliant culture, and how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you align your culture with your business strategy for exceptional results. Looking for a culture that drives organizational excellence? Listen to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the second and fourth Friday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit culturalbrilliance.com.
Would you like your next chapter to be free from fear and angst? Tune in to Your Next Chapter Radio, navigating through life's transitions with Shelley Ryan the fourth Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Shelley's contagious enthusiasm guides you through life's transitions deliberately, mindfully, and funnily. For Your Next Chapter coaching or to listen, visit YourNextChapterCoaching.com or call 602-617-8351. Next.
Welcome back, listeners. Just before the break, we were talking about barriers to recognizing our interdependence. And Dorothy, we did a whole segment last year on forgiveness that I thought was so powerful and really informative. And certainly we discussed that quite a bit, that being unable to forgive another really creates that sense of separateness, not only from that person, but, we really feel it can penetrate our whole lives. We feel isolated when we hold on to anger, and hold on to blame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that in fact, that might be one of the archives some of our listeners might want to go back and listen to, because we talked about the fact that if you don't forgive, your energy stays kind of knotted around this issue. You don't have that free flow of energy. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to forget. It doesn't mean that you have to ever be with, interact with the person again. But you do need to recognize that we all make mistakes. It's part of being human. It's part of learning. And let that knot of energy release. And so not being able to do that, absolutely, Steve, is a barrier to interdependence. And I just want to mention two others. Another is being dismissive of someone else's suffering, of acting as though it doesn't matter, it's trivial, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Whatever somebody else is experiencing is their experience, and that needs to be respected. It might not be how I would experience it, but trivializing it is dehumanizing in a certain way. It's a harmful way of behaving.
Or even ignoring it. I mean, we're seeing so much within the Me Too movement. I think we're all, as a culture, learning so much of ways to really listen. To listen and be aware of what another person has gone through. I think we're all learning valuable lessons around just that, of the harm involved in being dismissive of another's suffering, and ways in which people use that in a manipulative way. So we're learning a lot.
I was struck, the whole issue of children being separated from their parents at the border, of persons legitimately seeking asylum being turned back or being abused. That whole dynamic, when it first started, or when it first became news, when the spotlight was shown on it, one of the reactions by a politician was, well, they're not us, right? as though it shouldn't matter. And then there was an interview with someone in the Trump administration who said that when the policy was put in place, there was the belief in the administration that no one would care, no one would notice, and that they were taken completely off guard by the public demonstrations and the outcry of citizens about people who were not U.S. citizens. So that's an illustration of that barrier to remembering our interdependence, is when we start thinking of others as them that are not part of us. Or if we just focus on ourselves, we focus on our own self-interest as opposed to focusing on the common good, focusing on finding win-win solutions that strengthen our interdependence.
Yeah, and even self goes beyond just our own personal self. Even this whole idea of that border atrocity, which was, it's in our self-interest to set this example and to show that this is what will happen if you come here. Atrocious. Yeah. So, Dorothy, before we reach the end of the show, I want to just talk a bit about ways in which we can strengthen our sense of interdependence. A few words.
Yeah, I want to bring back a topic that we talked about a little bit ago, which is our bias, our anthropocentric bias, that everything is human-centered, that humans are the best. And part of our interdependence is our connection with all other species and with Mother Earth. And so recognizing that bond, recognizing that we share a common environment and common resources, and that other species are our relatives. They're not just there to be exploited.
Take care, everyone.
Beautiful.
Bye.
Indeed. I think of the six perfections, which the Buddhist six perfections, which if, one were to pay attention to bring into their lives, certainly bring more light and awareness into the experience of their day to day. And those, quite simply, if we can very simply bring these, they're called perfections, but we can just bring more of them into our lives. One of them is generosity. And again, I say, people say, how can I be of service? I don't have much to give. Well, you could always give a smile. So be generous with your smiles. Be generous with your thank yous. Be generous with hugs. Another of the perfections is moral discipline. So it's, again, asking, will this action or even this thought or these words I'm about to say help or harm? That can help one really wrap their head around, being disciplined with their thoughts and their actions morally. Patience is another one of the perfections. Boy, you want more patience? Just breathe through a situation. Be quiet. Just calm down for a bit and breathe. Take a long, slow exhale and generate a little more patience in your life. Another of the perfections, joyful effort. I love that one, Dorothy, right? Joyful effort, to make sure that what you're doing, you're engaged in, there's presence, that you bring joy to it. It's like if it's not joyful or meaningful, then how can I make it so? What can I do that whatever it is, however mundane, whatever this effort is, I can make it joyful? And trust me, if you make it joy for yourself, others will receive that joy. They will experience it. Another is concentration, is a perfection. Interestingly enough, concentration leads, at least in the workings of our brain, it leads to objectivity. When we are concentrated, we're not having meandering thoughts about ourselves and the relationship of ourselves to everything. You notice that's what happens when you get bored. When you are paying attention to something, it actually creates objectivity, where we then can generate insight. And one of those insights could be that we are all interdependent. Another one is wisdom. That is to generate wisdom. So as you were saying, Dorothy, about anthropocentric bias, learn about the world around you. Learn about the intricacies, the complexities of the world around you. And that just leads you to appreciate it more, have reverence for it, and then to celebrate it joyfully.
Absolutely. I wanted to just add, to what you were saying about generosity. I have found myself in situations where either where I've received a service I would like to tip, either I don't have any money with me, or I don't have as much money as I would like to give. And I find that if I not just smile, but I say, thank you, you've been so helpful to me You've really made a difference in my day. What I get back from the other person is a big smile. And yeah, I wish I had some money to give them as well, but I can always give that.
Beautiful. I would add to the 6 perfections appreciation. You know, I'm hearing appreciation in that. Appreciation goes such a long way. And, you know, then listeners, step back and notice the ways in which we are all connected. We are interdependent, and it is really a joyful awareness. Dorothy, I appreciate you. I appreciated this entire month. Goodness gracious, such wonderful wisdom brought forward. So thank you, as always, for what you bring to the table. And listeners, thank you for joining us. And Dorothy, next month, we're going to talk about adaptability, yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very important principle.
I look forward to it. Listeners, I hope you'll join us. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Fire Radio. Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern for your weekly guide to purposeful living and practical spirituality. Join hosts Steve Kramer and Dorothy Riddle as they shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in your everyday life. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. To learn more, visit spiritfireradio.com.